every empire in history claimed to have built the strongest army the world had ever seen. And Blue Stickman had decided, against everyone's advice, that he was going to find the real one. A voice from off-screen cut in immediately, dry and unimpressed, asking Blue Stickman if he understood that strongest army in history was not actually a place you could hike to. Blue Stickman held up the map anyway, insisting there had to be a starting point, and the map, quite helpfully, pointed to Mesopotamia.
Who keeps doing that? That really hurt my ears.
The first stop was Akkad, around 2340 BC, where a king named Sargon had clawed his way from nobody to conqueror by building history's first professional army. Sargon's soldiers were paid, trained, and kept on duty year-round instead of being farmers who occasionally remembered they owned a spear. Blue Stickman found a dusty tablet bragging that Sargon's army was undefeated, unstoppable, and completely first, and he triumphantly declared the quest over in record time. The off-screen voice pointed out that the tablet was written by Sargon's own scribes, which was a bit like trusting a resume written by the guy applying for the job.
That was a fair point, actually.
Deeper in the ruins, a second inscription revealed that Sumerian city-states already had standing forces of their own, centuries earlier, just smaller and less organized.
The quest has barely started, and already has a plot twist.
The map glowed and yanked him sideways in time toward Assyria, because apparently that's just how the map worked now. In Assyria, King Tiglath-Pileser III had done something genuinely wild around 745 BC by disbanding local militias entirely and replacing them with full-time professional soldiers backed by the state treasury. Blue Stickman peeked through a doorway and watched thousands of soldiers marching in formation, funded, fed, and paid whether or not there happened to be a war that week. He whispered that this finally felt like the real answer, and the voice off-screen agreed it was a very strong contender. Before Blue Stickman could plant his flag and call it a day, a horn sounded in the distance and a Spartan soldier stepped out of the fog, looking deeply unbothered by any of this. Time to pause the quest for a question, because Blue Stickman turned straight to the camera and asked viewers to settle something in the comments below.
Was the strongest army the one fought the hardest, or the one that was organized the smartest? Everyone had to pick a side and type it below.
Back on the trail, the Spartan explained that Spartan boys began military training at age 7 and stayed soldiers essentially for life, making the entire citizen population one enormous standing army. Blue Stickman pointed out that this seemed slightly unfair to 8-year-olds, and the Spartan did not disagree. He just shrugged and kept marching. Just when Blue Stickman thought Sparta had it locked in, the map yanked him again, and here's the part nobody tells you going into this trip. The story was about to get a lot more crowded. He landed face first in Persia, where Cyrus the Great had assembled an elite force of exactly 10,000 soldiers known as the Immortals, so named because the moment one fell, another instantly replaced him, keeping the count eternally at 10,000.
Blue Stickman admitted that was objectively the coolest name any army in this entire quest had come up with so far.
The voice off-screen reminded him that a cool name is not the same thing as being first.
Behold the ancient ruins of the past! Whoever kept talking off camera was really not letting him enjoy anything today.
Standing in the middle of all these empires arguing about the crown, Blue Stickman finally understood the real problem, which was that every single one of these civilizations had written its own history, and nobody writes themselves as the underdog. Sargon's scribes called Akkad first. Assyria's records called their own force the most disciplined. Sparta's reputation was built by outsiders terrified of them, which is arguably even better marketing. And Persia's Immortals got the title simply by having the best branding in the ancient world. Blue Stickman sat down on a broken column and admitted that maybe the actual answer was that there is no single first strongest army, only a very long argument between empires who all controlled their own paperwork. The off-screen voice for once sounded almost proud of him for figuring that out on his own. Blue Stickman stood back up.
If nobody could agree on the past, I'm at least going to get credit for asking the question.
As he turned to leave the ruins, the ground rumbled beneath him, and a second, older set of Akkadian tablets slid out from beneath the columns. Tablets that predated Sargon's by at least a century, and were already boasting about an army even older than his. Blue Stickman looked directly at the camera, mouth open, and said absolutely nothing because there was officially nothing left to say.